different. So this week we've got John, aka at Dadtality. How are you, my guy?
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen? How are you doing?
Good. Oh man, yeah, we're having a ton of fun in the pre-show. All of a sudden, it's time to start the show, and we got to get focused up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'll make a quick point here, though. I'm excited for this show. We've had a ton of good shows to this point, but you and I were sitting in the pre-show meeting, and you just got to talking, and I had to stop you because it's
Yeah.
like we can't do the whole darn show
Yeah, right.
like right here. So it's like, you know what? We're going to be fine. We're just going to get on here, BS a little bit about the industry. I know there's a ton of people excited to hear your story, as am I. So let's go ahead and jump in right there. That's where we start every single episode. Tell us the story about how John became Dadtality. Go back as far as you need to, my guy.
Holy cow, yeah. So how did I become Dadtality? My gosh. Well, I am hold on, I'm 34 years old right now, so it's been a long journey. I've been gaming since I was 2 years old, so 1987, on the original Nintendo there, with Contra. It wasn't Super Mario. That game sucked in my opinion, but it was Contra. It was a shoot 'em up. So yeah, started from there, and I found a natural love for gaming. So just playing games here and there as a young kid. You got the Zeldas, A Link to the Past on the Super Nintendos, the Mortal Kombats, the Sonics, all that good stuff, right? Nostalgic stuff. It was about 1996, I believe, when GoldenEye came out on the N64. It was when I discovered that I actually had some talent on FPSs, and I remember I'd go over to a friend of mine's house, and he had the N64, he had GoldenEye, and we'd get a bunch of our buddies around, and
man.
dude,
that
and we
game.
would, yeah, right? It's beautiful game. It needs to be remastered, by the way. I just want to put that out there.
Oh, could you imagine? I mean,
let's go.
there are certain games when you think about that console, that game, that controller, it just stuff of legend. It will everybody you see that image of that controller. And I think it's been popped up on social media once in a while that you see the picture of that controller, and the meme is like, everybody knows what this is about, right? It's always GoldenEye.
How could you not, right? what a groundbreaking
So the first
game.
FPS, GoldenEye.
Yeah,
all right.
GoldenEye. Yeah, I lost a lot of friends over that game because I mean, it was either I was really, really good, or they really, really sucked, or a mix of the both. I don't really know.
No.
Didn't matter. But yeah, I'd pretty much beat everybody. And we would bet, damn, what was it back then? We would bet like, remember the spree candies? They're like the little circles.
Yeah. Oh, sprees.
Yeah,
they still exist, but you see them every once in a while. The chewy. Wow. Yeah. Are you a chewy or the OG kind?
I was the OG kind.
The OG kind. All right.
I'm gonna date myself
sprees,
here.
You're sitting here. Are you about to tell me that you're hustling kids for sprees?
I was. Yeah. It was a friend of mine, Tyler, and we had a candy shop down the end of our road. And every Friday after school, man, we all knew, like, hey, we're going to Tyler's house. We're gonna do, GoldenEye tourneys or whatever. Like, we didn't call them tourneys back then, but like little LAN parties or whatever. So we'd go to the store, dude, and we would like wager sprees. And I fucking love sprees, man. My all-time favorite candy. So I'm like, yeah, hell yeah, let's get it.
The currency of the day.
Seriously, man. You got red, yellow, greens, all that good stuff. So yeah, good old Tyler. So we'd go to his house, his dad would order us pizza, and we would just be GoldenEye all day. And I had to play James Bond. That was my guy, and everybody knew it. And whoever won the round would get to pick what characters they wanted. And James Bond was, the favorite one of them all, but he was mine.
Right.
So
and they had to beat you to get him. I
had to beat him, and they really couldn't do it. I really lost. So it was about that time, 96, where I didn't really recognize it then because I was only 11 years old. But I mean, I was pretty good. So I would definitely hustle my friends. There'd be a lot of arguments, a lot of missed sleepovers, stuff like that. There actually was a point in time where I wasn't allowed over his house for sleepovers. I couldn't be beat. So I kind of had to tell them, like, okay, well, I won't play, but can I at least come hang out? And they were cool with that, like they were my friends and shit. They just didn't want me playing. So yeah, fast forward. Let's jump forward to like 2001. The greatest game of all time, in my opinion, Halo 1 Combat Evolved. My gosh, I could still remember the day that I ever played that. And you boot it up, man, and you got the ring floating in space, and you got that awesome ambient and music, and you're
Oh yeah.
just transported to that time, and it's a whole different world. And
I mean, you grew
uh
up in a hell of an era for gaming.
the golden age, as I call it, the golden
Yeah,
age of gaming.
it makes sense.
Yeah, very lucky to be there for pretty much every single system except for the Atari. And played all the top games. In Halo, to me, to this day, is by far the greatest game I've ever played. Shooter wise, Final Fantasy is my number one of all time, but Halo, my gosh, discovered that I was really good at that game, stupidly good. And my uncle had the Xbox. He's the one who had the Halo, so it's kind of same situation with GoldenEye, but he'd get a bunch of his buddies over, and I would just absolutely destroy these guys. And they were like 7, 8 years older than I, and I was
Okay.
16 at the time, and just absolutely destroy them. And I remember my uncle saying, like, dude, you are just really too good at this game. Like, you need to figure out a way to play this more. And that's where like the underground landing scene really started to
Right.
kind of make its way from the shadows.
Because where are you
So
located at? Remind us.
I'm in Massachusetts. So at that time, I was living in Foxborough. I grew up in
Okay.
Foxborough.
Okay.
So we had God, it was called EB Games. I don't even know if they exist anymore. I don't think they do. But there was a game store, kind of like our version of GameStop now.
Sure. Sure.
They would run Halo tourneys at their stores every Saturday and Sunday. And when I kind of discovered that I was very good at Halo, I said, hey, I had an EB Games right down the road from me. So what the hell? I'll give it a shot. So
Yeah.
I went, and I did pretty good. I won 2, and I came in second place a lot. So, I mean, whatever, it's all good, but I knew I was pretty damn good.
Right.
So it was hard because back then I was a sports fanatic. Like I love
Sure.
sports too, but gaming, they just conflicted. But at that time, I really couldn't put a lot of time into training because I was
Right.
on
Right.
baseball team, football team. So,
Right. Right.
and back then, gaming was taboo. So they,
100%. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It had it. I mean, it's really only become mainstream maybe the last decade, if that.
exactly. If that, yeah.
Maybe if that. But yeah, I mean, I can imagine. I mean, so this was, you said early 2000s. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
all the things, normal people do, quote unquote, normal people do, or what the expectation is right.
Yeah.
Young guy, you're out there supposed to be, either hooping it up, playing, just playing the traditional sports. And here you are actually playing a video game at an incredibly high level. Yeah. But again, society probably hadn't quite caught up yet to that line of thinking.
No,
Yeah.
no. I was basically kind of forced out of the scene back then. So I mean, I was 16 at the time, and I would make a little bit of side cash. And at that age, you're told, hey, you need to go out and get a job. You're never gonna
Right.
make any money playing video games. And so it's kind of burnt into my head back then, like, shit, I don't want to get a job. I want to play video games,
Right.
So
Yeah. Remember that quote as we go through this story. I'll never make money playing video games. But go on.
That's funny. Yes, I hope we do, because I have some insight into that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so my gosh, Halo. I played, Halo 1. It was Halo 2, but it was really Halo 3 that came out, I believe, 2007. Halo 2 is 2004. Yeah, so like 2007. I was right before my oldest daughter was born, and we were living at Maine, in Maine at the time, and I had a essential Halo team that I had put together with really good players that I had met, and we wanted to put our toes in the competition water. And I mean, I grew up watching the Ogre Brothers. I love those guys. Final Boss for life. Um, and I was always watch them because they would live stream it, and every event I'd watch them in, I'd be like, damn, I really wish I could be on the main stage one day.
Right.
And ended up linking up with these guys who had the same ambition. They were a little bit younger than me because at that time I was 22, 23 years old.
Yep.
And these were like, 17, 18-year-old kids just finishing high school or whatever. So
Right.
we put a team together and we decided we'd try our luck on the game battles ladder there. The OG game battles. I don't know how it is now because I don't dabble in that anymore. So,
Right. Right.
excuse me. So back then, if you place in a certain spot on the game battles ladder, you could potentially get an invitation to the main stage, and that was our ambition
Wow.
as a team. Yeah, it was to make it, and I
It's like a
even
points-based system. You climb
it,
the ladder of
it
points, and then
correct,
eventually, yeah. Okay.
correct. So I actually was going so far as to ask my boss or the owner of the job where I worked at if he'd be interested in sponsoring, and he was open to it. He was like, "Hey, I think this is a great idea. It'd be good advertisement for us, and it will help you try to achieve that dream or whatever." And as soon as I basically had the "Hey, we'll sponsor you," the team fell apart. And
Oh,
to yeah, yeah, imagine that.
no.
And yeah, we were doing good too. We were climbing that ladder. Um, and my gosh, man. I mean, I am no Snipe Down. I am no Ogre 1 or Ogre 2, but
Sure.
chemistry wise, right, a trumps individual skill to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Oh
we
yeah.
all just mesh well and we were doing well. I actually was competing against Ninja in the later years of Halo. So I ran into him back then.
Yeah.
So crazy shit, man. And the team fell apart. I don't really know why to this day in 2020. I don't know why. Never heard from one of the guys, Rambo V2. I still remember his name. Damn, he was great with a sniper, but he disappeared, never messaged us or anything. So the other guys were like, well, shit, if we can't get a hold of him, we really don't want to replace him and start over. So I guess we'll just part
Right.
ways. And
Uh,
I had, my gosh, I think I had our daughter was just born then.
yeah.
I was working full time. I had bills to pay. I had a house to pay. All that stuff.
First real
So
crossroads, right? Team,
yeah,
team dissolves, and the realities of adulthood starts to kick in, right?
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was it, man. That just it sucks because I personally never got that closure. I mean, I'm 34
Yeah.
years old now, but it would have been nice to know like why, or at least say, hey man, like I don't want to do this anymore. Like I'm gonna go to college or whatever the case was, but we never got an answer, and it really sucked because we were putting our 100% into it. I was
Yeah.
sacrificing family time, all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, you had the support of the family to make a serious run at it, and then for it to go by the wayside, and to have that unfortunate thought of, gosh, if it's almost like you would have rather tried and just failed, as opposed to just never gotten the opportunity.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Sucked, but what can you do, right?
So
Life goes
that
on.
happens right
Yeah.
now. We gotta, we gotta make an adjustment. Where do we go to?
Yeah, so where do we go to? So I guess we can pretty much fast forward to now.
Sure.
So the creation of Dadtality, the mystery.
Yeah,
What is
right. Now
Dadtality?
so we got this foundation. This, streamer was able, or not streamer, gamer was able to play at a really high level,
Yes.
right? Never really kind of got the shot, right? Kind of felt like, a little unfulfilled from a video game standpoint. And then now we transition to, how does that become this?
Yeah. So it's a great damn question, and it's funny to think back how it everything just all balled together and created
Yeah.
what is Dadtality and Dad Nation now. So I actually maintained some of that skill. I mean, I feel like as a player, individual wise, I was much better back then.
Yeah.
But I'm older now, and I have other things that I have to deal with. So I'm still pretty good. And I don't normally like to toot my own horn. That's not the type of person that I am. So thankfully, I was able to hold on to some of that skill. So it just progressed into, your Call of Duties, your Battlefields, things like that. And
Yeah.
so it was about PUBG. When PUBG came to the Xbox. I always like the idea of a BR. I just think it's really fucking awesome that you're gonna fight 100 other players on a map and you're going to be the last one standing. I think that's
Right.
great. That is so epic to me.
Yeah, I
So
mean, because putting 4 guys on the other team against you, it's not even fair. So it's got to be another 56 or something.
exactly, right. And
Yeah. No,
you do.
I definitely get the allure. I think there's a reason why that genre has made such a statement. And honestly, I think it's probably, I don't have the numbers in front of me, probably highest paid, highest played, highest grossing, right? And many of them are free, which is
Yeah,
absurd.
yeah.
But you got into the PUBG scene and the battle royale scene.
I did. It was funny because I was playing with my best friend in real life, and that fucking guy. I'd always have to carry him, but I love the dude, so I didn't mind, right? So I
Right.
mean, we would get together, we'd run duos, or if we had two of our other buddies, we'd do the squads or whatever. But I was the man. I was, hey, you're the Car 98 guy. Here it is. Do your work, right? So
Yep.
it was just the idea of playing with them and having a good time where I really fell in love with PUBG, and mixing it with how much I really like the idea of a BR. It all meshed well. So
Yep.
um I guess I have a good personality. I guess I'm funny or whatever. So he would say, he'd say, man, you really need to stream. You really, really, really need to stream. I think people would really like you. And I'm like, not like, no. I tell him, man, shut the fuck up. Like, I'm like, you just like, he's a police officer, right? And I'd be like, man,
Right.
just stay in your fucking lane and just let's play games. Shut up. Um,
Right.
but then I had this little birdie in my ear, Momtality, who would say the same thing, and she'd be like, you're really good.
Smart man. Go to the missus. Hey,
Yeah,
look,
and she was right there. She would enjoy it. She loves PUBG to this. It's her. I think low key her favorite.
Okay.
So she would be right there along with him, like, yeah, you need to stream. People would love you. Blah blah blah. And it's funny because I would think of like the Shrouds and the Ninjas and stuff, and I'd be like, man, those are the cats that everybody wants to go watch, not
Yeah.
some.
But what year was this? How long ago?
This was 2017, 2018.
Okay.
Yeah. So
What did, in your impression, what did the industry look like in 17, 18? Like, what was your impression of it?
it just everything was Twitch driven.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I only ever knew a Twitch. I
Mm-hmm.
watched Twitch back then. I actually knew a really big Twitch partner personally because we were in the same Destiny clan. So that's how I kind of got introduced to Twitch, and I loved it. I loved watching Shroud. I hate to say, but I never really was a Ninja fan. It kind of stems to the Halo days, but I mean, I'm more open to him now. But he's a good player, like,
Yeah.
so I would go in and watch him every now and then. But it's more of like the Shrouds and the Summits and stuff that really attracted me. So, and I would always say to Mom Tally, like, damn, I actually really would be cool to do, But it was always in the back of my mind. I never really thought to pursue it. So yeah,
Yeah.
everything was just Twitch, right? So I'm thinking like, okay, well, in this industry, you're competing with thousands of other content creators, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every one of their dreams is to be a Shroud or a Ninja or a Summit. Not real expectations in my opinion. I mean, those guys are absolutely the best of what they do. And I'm not saying it's not possible, but you kind of
Right.
have to stay on Earth a little bit. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
So I really didn't think anything more of it. I just wanted to play my PUBG and just leave me the fuck alone. So
Mm-hmm.
they literally both together would just nag the living piss out of me every night to just stream. And I'm like, well, okay, if I'm streaming, I need a PC, I need a camera, I need,
Right.
and the list goes on.
Yeah.
And my best friend says to me, he says, hey, asshole. He said, you got an Xbox, right? I said, yeah. He said, you just literally press the home button, you
Press the
tab
button.
over, 3 times, hit broadcaster live. And I said, what? I had no idea, man. Like, I'm an old dude. I got kids and shit. I don't know this tech stuff. And he says, that's all you do, man. And I remember, wow, sitting there at that broadcast now button and just having it highlighted and just so reluctant to press it because
Yeah.
when you go live, it's a whole other world. So one night I just decided, fuck it, we're gonna do it. I mean, what's the worst that's gonna happen? You know what I mean? Who cares? Who's really gonna come into the channel? Nobody. And it really was just like more for a momtality to be in bed and watching us play games. And that's
Oh
cool
yeah.
because she loves PUBG. So I'm like, all right, fuck it, that's what you want. Cool. So I started broadcasting. Never knew about Mixer. I think they just made the switch from Beam to Mixer or whatever the story was back then. I think they just were like brand new.
That's about right from a timeline, like late 18, or late 17, early 18, I think.
Yeah. And it's like, hey, you're on Mixer now, and I'm like, what the fuck is Mixer? I don't know. And then lo and behold, it's essentially a Twitch. So sure as shit, there I am live, and Momtality showing me like, hey, this is your channel, this is fucking cool. And I'm like, whoa, you can edit your description, and like this is whole crazy shit. It's like a whole new world. So yeah, I play PUBG. I was good at PUBG. I hit Hype Zone for the first time, and like fucking back then, Hype Zone was, oh my god, like 800, 900,000 people.
That's absurd.
It was insane.
That's so many.
And they were there. All of a sudden, I'd go from one viewer, which was Momtality, to like 800, 900 people. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, I didn't know. I had no clue. And it said, you're in the Hype Zone. And I'm like, what the fuck is Hype Zone? What is this? And everybody's in the chat. Like, the chat's bopping, like going crazy. You feel like Shroud or a Ninja. And they're like, hey, GG's, man. Good looks. Come on. I'm cheering you on and stuff. And dropping sparks. I don't know what sparks were. I was just like, okay.
It seems like Hype Zone was a lot more supportive back then.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. It was a different beast back then. It's unfortunately nothing now.
But what a good way too, and again, you've kind of always been a high skill player, and that's certainly been at least a part of your brand. And so when you have a function like that on Mixer, I mean, it's kind of a right place, right time thing, because I don't know if Twitch had Hype Zone at that time, but what a function for new streamers to kind of, give this massive viewership to just based on merit, honestly. Like if you can make it there, and the kills line or the kills, the kill thing grabs it or whatever, however it works, you can make it there, you get some exposure. So it's a merit-based system.
It was it's funny you say that, because Hype Zone back then, like you said, was very supportive, and it was actual real people there hitting the follow button, saying, hey man, I'll be back, like you're so good, this and that. And back then I would hit Hype Zone a lot, and I was really starting to get a lot of followers. I'd go from having one viewer to like maybe 3 or 4, and I thought that was cool because I know one of those is Momtality, but like the other ones are, who the hell knows who it was. So I'm like, yo, I just fucking 4 people in the channel. This is crazy, and it was really cool. And then my gosh, so it just slowly, like it was slow.
And you were just doing this part-time, nights, weekends, when you're, because at the time you were working as a
so at the time then, damn, I was working for the Army National Guard, because I am still I'm in the Army National Guard still. And back then I was at that time, I believe I was the logistical non-commissioned officer for the state of Massachusetts's hazmat team, one of their hazmat teams. So I had a pretty damn important job back then, but low key, I just wanted to be home streaming, hitting Hype Zones, because this shit was exhilarating. It was awesome. It was like being on that main stage, right? Like a Halo thing. It was like, that was my main stage, was fucking Hype Zone. So, so I was doing that, and I would come home, see the kids, have dinner, and then it would just be PUBG. And if my buddies were working or whatever, I'd do solos, and I was still hitting Hype Zone a lot. So gosh, it was kind of fast forward a little bit. He had the Blackout come out. Blackout was fucking awesome. I loved Blackout, and it was sad leaving PUBG, but I felt then the future of BR was going to be the Blackout, and it was great. It was fresh. It was new. It looked good. The guns felt good. The time to kill felt honestly good to me. And it wasn't a lot of that desync bullshit or what you had in PUBG that you had to deal with, because it was a mess back then. But so I was kind of like, okay, yep. So we made a following with PUBG, so now we're gonna do the Blackout thing. And I was so fortunate and blessed enough that I was still hitting a good amount of hype zones. And the hype zone wasn't for Blackout, wasn't like it was with PUBG back in the old days, but it was still pretty good. You know, you get your 200s, occasional 300 or whatever, but it was still good. I was still getting follows, and slowly but surely people would slowly filter into the channel. At that time I was known I was known as Mental Fiction. And Mental Fiction was a line from one of my all-time favorite songs by my all-time favorite band, Avenged Sevenfold, Backcountry. It said, you know, Mental Fiction, follow me. And I always thought, holy shit, Mental Fiction, how cool is that? What a cool name to have. So that's kind of where I got it from. So I was known as, hey, you know, Mental or Mental Fiction. So people would be coming to me, hey, what's up, Mental? What's up, Fiction? How you doing? So I was starting to grow a little bit. I didn't have an official community, but I had a group of people that would come in and they would hang out or whatever. And then Apex came.
Yep.
Apex literally came out of left field. Nobody ever saw it coming, and it made such a first day impact that I honestly will never forget, because it was like, holy shit, what is this game? Where did it come from? Um, what the hell is going on here with
Yeah, I
this?
mean, it really brought like the hero type games, like the hero shooters, you know, and brought that element to a battle royale, and it made because really Blackout was, I guess, an upgraded PUBG in a way,
Essentially,
but
yeah,
this was the first time where the person that you were playing, your legend, brought a could I mean, it changes the entire dynamic of a team depending on how you build the team comp, and then also how you play.
correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And I love that. So being in the actually not even being in the military, just even before the military, I always was a team player.
Mm-hmm.
I always would sacrifice my body for the team, for the victory or whatever. And then obviously having that reinforced by the military.
Mm-hmm.
So when Apex came out, you know, I had that Overwatch touch, which I liked Overwatch, but Overwatch wasn't really for me.
Yep.
But I liked the heroes. I like how they had abilities. You had a counter to this and da 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 da
Mm-hmm.
da. So I actually hated Apex when I first played it. I was like, what? I mean, the movement was smooth. It felt great. It felt fresh, but I was like, what? I just wasn't used to it. It was alien
Right.
to me.
Right.
Um, so I went back to Blackout, and I don't know what it was, man. I honestly can't tell you, but I had some intuition and like calling to go back to Apex, and I played it, man, and I put in a good couple hours, and I never looked back to Blackout. I've been with Apex ever since, and I still grind the shit out of it to this day. And
Mm-hmm.
my gosh, so Apex, Apex, Apex. What a great game. Still fucked up, but
Now, at this point, had you made the decision that we're going to make a run at this, so we're still dabbling. I mean, obviously, there's an easily identifiable theme to all these games, is they all have hype zone, which is obviously going to help you build.
yes.
Um, you know, by the time Apex rolls around, kind of paint me a picture of where the stream was,
Okay.
and kind of where you were mentally with like, because as it builds traction and as it starts to growing, it's more,
Yeah.
take me through some of those.
Yes, that's perfect. Because it's about that time. I think it was about a month into Apex where I was streaming consistently. I was currently going through the hiring process of my town's police department. So I kind of had that going on. But I was still doing the streaming thing, and I was really, really loving the streaming thing. I was loving the people that I was meeting. I was loving that we honestly had like a family, like in the making. Because the community is an extension of our family. So it was great because I guess my personality just worked, and I'd have people who would just come to like wait to come into the stream. They'd fucking tell me like, man, I've been waiting for you all day, and yeah, I'm so happy you're here. Like, you're great. Like, you make my day that much better. And to hear that is honestly so humbling. There's honestly no greater feeling besides, you know, maybe getting married or seeing your children born or whatever. But that's so humbling to me that somebody that I don't even really know outside of this thing has that feeling. So um and I'd have a lot of people who would say it. So it was a struggle, man, because I had the police academy stuff going on.
Yep.
I had
Yep.
my ambition to stream it and grow more and meet people. But as it's weird because I'm kind of I don't know if I want to label it old school, but I have that mentality that I'm the man.
Yep.
Um, I'm alpha. I have that alpha mentality. I gotta be the guy that supports the family, right?
Right. Right.
So I knew that the greater good for the family would be me to pursue the police thing, and it always was a dream as a child was to be a police officer.
I don't know if I like the word that the better option would have been. I think the more secure option.
Secure,
And
you
I
know
guess
what?
if you want, I guess if you want to define better through a lens of security, certainly. Yeah.
Security. I like
You
that.
know,
Actually, that's good call there because you're absolutely 100% right. The more secure option, because
right.
it
Right.
honestly wasn't better. Because at that time where I was going through the academy, we actually had two police officers, unfortunately, lose their lives on the line of duty. So it really wasn't the better option. It was the secure option. So thank
Right.
you for bringing that up. So it was a struggle. It was honestly it was a pull. It was, I know what I feel like I need to do or should do
Yeah.
for the family, but at the same time it was like, holy shit, this is a low key dream to potentially be a full-time streamer.
Yeah.
So
I mean, let's paint a picture of this. Like, I mean, you're on the edge of the precipice here,
yes,
right? Like we are on the end of the chasm, right? And you're
yes,
standing at this, you're standing at this cliff, and behind you, right, you can just turn around and go away. You can just turn around and go back. You can go back to the quote unquote secure police job with the stable income and the 30-year career and the pension and da 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 da. Or we can kind of make this leap, right? And there's so many things that are pulling you back towards the police, right? The police
yeah,
academy, right? I mean, it's the as you say, the traditional, right?
yes,
It's a very traditional, and again, I mean, this is the second time in this story where you've kind of come up against what traditional society would suggest, right? Or what
correct,
traditional society purports, right? Because you
yes,
should be getting the secure, stable job,
yes,
putting food on the table, and that's the pressure, right? That's the pull.
correct,
And what's in front of you is a whole heck of a lot of unknown, right? And so, I mean, paint a picture, because what a decision, what
it
a
was
pivotal moment in a person's life, because today would look fundamentally different if that went one, depending on the way that would have gone, right? So, I mean, I imagine there were some conversations with Momtality. How did you navigate? Do I jump, or do I just go back to the force where it's secure?
That's perfect because I can still remember almost everything that we pretty much talked about, and it wasn't like a small conversation because how
Yeah.
could it ever be a small conversation?
Right.
Um, so yes, there was the idea of the secure way, the career path or whatever, but there's a lot that goes into it. There's a potential losing my life on the line of duty,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time away from the family because we live in a really big town. It's a tourist town here in the summer. Lot of hours. Um, and then you have the streaming side of you, like you said, you don't know. You're literally
Yeah.
staring into the black unknown. You
Right.
don't see, and it's shrouded in
Right.
this mystery.
And you're not single and 17 anymore, right? Like there's
Exactly.
there's there's pressure, right? There's
Yeah.
pressure to quite literally perform. I mean, I work with, so many athletes who have families and stuff like that. And this is a conversation that we have often. It's like, if you're going to do this, right, it's still, I mean, now we got to, your identity of, what is man to you, right? And what is being one, and what does that look like, and you have this established framework, right, of this is what I believe, and this is what I, either whether it's how I've been raised or just how I view it. And I mean, for lack of a better, I mean, just right out front, streaming completely contradicts that framework. It's
Yeah.
about as non-traditional as it gets, you know
100%.
so you're
100%.
looking at this.
Yes.
How'd you do it?
So I I owe so much to to Momtality, let me tell you, because she never once sat there and said, absolutely not. You
Yeah.
need to be a police officer. She supported me going into the military, she supported me going to try to become a police officer, and she was supporting me 100% in streaming. And I'm lucky in that aspect because a lot of people that do this don't have 100% support from their significant other.
Mhm.
So holy crap, it was a struggle. It literally was a big, massive decision, a lot of conversations, a lot of deep conversations. But in the end of it all, she said, you know, whatever you choose, I will be there to support you. Um, she has a good job.
Mm.
That definitely helps because it helped alleviated some of the
That
possible
pressure.
financial burdens. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not sitting here saying we're fucking loaded either. You know what I mean? But it helped.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
definitely helped in the decision process, and
Sure. I mean, the lights still have to stay on,
they
groceries still have to
do.
get bought. I mean, the realities of the world haven't gone away, you know?
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
So I actually found out that I had a shoulder injury that I was born with. And it's some crazy medical term, but basically the head of my humerus doesn't sit in my shoulder pocket. It's like kind of semi dislocated.
Yeah. Okay.
So it was affecting PTs and workouts and stuff for the academy.
Yeah. I mean, I
So
imagine it's rotator cuff issues just
yeah,
out the wazoo.
rotator.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to remember the word, but I really can't. I can't remember it at all. But potentially it's not good. Like they basically said you're gonna need surgery. So
Yeah.
I had to notify the police department. It's the right thing to do. I went through the process. Went through the process. I actually had the hiring letter. I still have it to this day. It's up in my drawer, but I could have been the biggest piece of shit and signed it and then said, "Oh, by the way, I'm hurt, but you can't do shit about it because I signed your hire letter. Technically, I'm hired by you." But no, I have always believed in honor and integrity, and I didn't sign it. And I notified the lieutenant there, and I said, "Hey, I have an injury that I'm currently haven't looked into. I am not going to continue this process right now. What do I do to stay on your list, or whatever?" So there's some things that I had to do, and then that's when we really decided where I thought about it after doing the police academy orientation and hearing an instructor who actually knew one of the officers who was slain on the line of duty. And normally I'm a cold-hearted bastard. I am a tough guy. I don't have feelings or whatever. But I was listening to this instructor talk about the day of that man's funeral, or the police officer's funeral there, and how he remembers to that day that he can remember seeing that officer's children lay on his coffin at the church, crying and saying, "Why isn't my daddy waking up?" And it just smacked me in the face, right there at orientation, that shit, maybe this really isn't for me. Maybe
Yeah.
my true calling potentially is streaming, and maybe I should kind of take a different route and just embrace the unknown and the randoms and the risk the biscuit and just see where it
Mm-hmm.
goes. Because at the end of it, what really is the worst that could potentially happen is I didn't become. I hate saying this because it's never about money or whatever, but successful, and then
Right.
having to go out
Right.
to get a job. Right?
Yeah.
Is that the worst that's going to happen? I mean, I don't make it and I have to go get a job. Yeah, yeah, but I didn't want to fail at streaming because, like I was saying earlier, we were building a family, an extended family. We were having people that we were helping get through their day, and at the end of it all, that trumped the secure route in being a police officer.
Right.
So that's when
Right.
we basically said, let's do this. Let's go all in 100%. So we did.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that whole story reminds me of a couple things. The first one that it reminds me of is, so Jim Carrey a while back gave a speech, a commencement speech at his alma mater. I don't know if you've seen it or not. You familiar with the speech that I'm talking about?
I do. Yep, I do.
Anyway, within that speech, he tells this story, right? Because Jim Carrey, wildly successful comedian,
Yes.
after some struggle. Um, but he tells the story of his dad and how his dad was a really talented comedian, but he took a safe job, right, to provide for the family as an accountant. He took a safe job as an accountant, and like 3 or 4 years into it, he loses his job, and Jim Carrey remembers like everything they had to do to like scratch and survive. And I think like that story, and then exactly what everybody's going through now, it's Jim Carrey's message was essentially like, listen, you can fail doing anything. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you want to do, right? Doing what you want. And
Perfect. Yeah.
I mean, even the most safest, secure thing, right? Police officer, when you really think about it, probably not. Even an accountant, right? Your firm lays you off, then what do you do?
What do you do?
Right. And the second thing that you did was actually, it reminds me of an exercise. So for anybody who's watching, if you're ever in a situation where you're putting off something because you're afraid, essentially what Dadtality described that he was doing, it's called a fear setting exercise, right? And obviously my background's in psychology, so we're not going to go completely shrink 101 here, but essentially that's what fear does, right? It's the thing that paralyzes us. The biggest impact of fear is that the biggest impact is the things that it keeps us from doing. And it likewise with you. And essentially what you said is, you looked at it and said, all right, well, let me define what this is. Let me define this nightmare that this fear is trying to install, right? And the nightmare was like, well, maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe it doesn't work out and I fail and I fall on my face. And then the important part is the next thing that you did. Because the next thing that you did is, all right, even if the nightmare happens, what can I do? And you're like, I can get a job. I can go make money, right? I can go find it. And that's essentially, it's called fear setting, right? Where you actually face the fear, define what it's trying to convince you of. And then even if that happens, now all of a sudden it's like, maybe this thing that seems like the worst case scenario or nightmare, maybe it really doesn't have that much like a permanent impact on my life. And there's a few other things that you can do within that exercise, but it almost always comes down to, with fear, you're putting off things that potentially have the upside of a great effect, and you're putting that great upside aside, or you're avoiding that for a downside that, while it appears to be something terrifying and great and just gloom and doom radio, it's really actually not that much. And I think that was basically the process that you just went through was, all right, well, if this goes to shit, what am I going to do about it? And well, here's 3 things that I can do. Okay, well, now all of a sudden this doesn't look so bad because I have an out.
Exactly.
Love it. So we make the decision. We make the grand decision to go after this. So, take me through kind of the early phase. I mean, when you said, all right, this is what I'm going to do, right? You kind of alluded to a little bit of like an entrepreneurial brain earlier on, talking about getting the sponsorship for your team. Talk to me about the branding. Talk to me about why Dadtality, why Momtality, why, how did we get going here? How did we really, put a turbo on this? Because we're going to get to this partnership conversation, because you are a partner.
Yes,
correct. And we're going to get there, but I want to talk about just the early stages. How did you brand? Why? What was the purpose? Everything.
Holy shit. This is actually, to me, it's a good story. So, at this time I was known as Mental Fiction still. And when we made this decision, post Police Academy, I'm big about being unique. I have to stand out from the crowd in a good way. So Mental Fiction was kind of child's play. Sure, it's unique, don't get me wrong, and we were actually branding as Mental Fiction. I actually still have art that was commissioned by a friend of Momtality's who did a damn good job, and it was called Mental Fiction Gaming. However, I needed more. It didn't feel right to me. It didn't speak to me. I feel like if it doesn't speak to me, then it's not going to speak to anybody else. So
right.
that's
a good little nugget right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like if it doesn't move you, how could you expect it to move somebody else? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that was my mindset. And it's funny because I was telling Momtality I want to rebrand, and she looked at me and she said, "Are you fucking serious?" Just like that. She says, "Are you fucking serious?" She's like, we just had all this artwork commission and all this stuff, and I had a poster made for you and all this shit, and now you want to rebrand now? Like, why now? Like, what's the reason? And I basically told her what I just said, and we couldn't come up with names. And normally I'm really fucking good with names because I write on the side. I play music, but I like to write. So what catches your attention when you read a really good book? It's the title, right? It's the title that stands out to you. So if you got a book that the title's shitty, you're gonna automatically assume that the book's shitty. So my gosh, I could not think of a name, man. I couldn't. I would come up with names, and I'd be like, oh, this is good. This is gonna stick. Everybody's gonna love it. And she'd be like, no, no, that actually doesn't, no, no. And then when she would explain why, I'd be like, oh yeah, you're kind of right. It kind of sucks. So we went back and forth. And holy shit, my man, I was taking my kids to the doctor's office. And I don't know why, because it was plaguing my brain. Like, it was driving me fucking mental that I could not figure out a new brand. So I was sitting there. I remember I'm actually in the room, the doctor's room there. You got my kids right here. The doctor's doing her thing, like examining, and the doctor's talking to me because I can hear her asking me questions, but I'm ignoring her completely because I'm thinking about the brand. And I'm thinking, and I'm like, you know what? I'm a dad. And the goal was, how many gaming dads are there out there? There's a lot. Believe it or not, when you really think about it, there's a fuck ton of dads who game. So I'm like, well, I want to appeal to that crowd. Not just them, but I want them to be kind of prioritized. Like, hey, this dude's a gaming dad. Like, he's, yeah, go gaming dad, you know? So there was that mentality. And I was kind of going with some names in my head, and they were kind of corny. And then I'm like, well, I'm a dad. That's the first step, is I'm a dad.
Mm-hmm. I got
So
3 letters down.
that's it. 3 letters down, man. And I'm
3
thinking,
letters down.
exactly. Yep. And I'm like trying to like compound other words in with them. And I'm like, nothing's fucking working. And then for whatever crazy reason, why, I don't know why it happened this way, but my very first famous professional gamer was a guy named Fatality, and he played Unreal Tournament on PC. And this dude was a freaking animal, and I loved watching him. He was like the Shroud of my generation back then.
I'm actually familiar with that name. Yeah, yeah.
There you go, man. So I got chills thinking about it. Holy shit! But it just was like,
there it is.
Dadtality.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit. And I'm in the doctor's office, and I heard the doctor ask me a question, and I literally sat there and I said, holy shit. And the doctor's like, what? Are you okay? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. Like, no, I'm good. I'm like, don't mind me. Like, hey, what's up? You know,
just a crazy person in my own head over here. Don't mind me.
Exactly.
Don't mind me.
So I had this name, I'm like, Dadtality. It felt good to me. It spoke to me. I'm like, holy shit, this feels good. It's great. Yep. And I had a vision of what the emblem was gonna look like and everything. So I'm
looking at your logo here too, and it's such a good job.
Oh, thank you.
You know, like the Superman type, you know. Oh, it's great. But yeah, so you have this, and again, you know, I'll point out the obvious here because again, just another theme of the show. Like, everybody wants to know how to brand, everybody wants to know how to, you know, attract, or at least they should be attracting some sort of targeted audience, at least at first. And you went right after it, just right out the chute with the title. And that's just, it was awesome because it's like, you gave us a glimpse, me and everybody watching this and everybody that will watch this, you gave me a glimpse of exactly that process, right? Why'd you want to rebrand? How much of a struggle that was. You stayed diligent with it. You kept scratching and clawing, and then the epiphany, right? And then boom, there it is. It felt good. It moved the needle for you, right? I mean, you're getting chills just talking about it. So it's so sick to have that background now that you got this up in time for that show, with the Dadtality up above you. So you get that, and you had mentioned too, you wanted kind of that targeted audience. How did that work? I'm curious, because like, it's a great idea in principle. How did it work in terms of attracting like that, you know, the dad gamers?
It really didn't. Honestly, if I'm being truthful, it really didn't. I did get a couple of people who came in like, hey, I'm a gaming dad too. Like, is this where the hangout is, and things like that. So that that mindset kind of was shot. But it was a blessing in disguise, because it even though I didn't appeal to what I wanted to appeal to, I got so much and then more.
I think you got a different benefit from it. I think you got this kind of unforeseen, like, it's still very much promoting like a place for adults, but it's also, as you've described, like a place that people come like honestly for support in a way.
Yeah.
Like vent, it's a community. I mean, it's
Yes.
an incredibly warm stream to be in, right? I mean,
Thank you.
I was in there for all of 3 seconds and somebody gifted me a sub, right? Like it's just an incredibly warm place. And so while it may not have had the impact of, bringing in gamer dads, there is an aspect of, you guys promote this idea of family, right? And we'll talk
Yes.
about how that's been bastardized and beaten to death across the streaming industry. Everybody says
Yep.
that they have a family, but few
Yep.
can execute it like that, right? But that's your brand, and you've got Dadtality and you've got Momtality,
Yes.
and I mean, key pieces of a family right there, just already
Correct.
in place. So how do you feel like, while it didn't have the immediate or the intended effect, what was the effect that you actually got from it?
Holy crap. So I I don't know. It's weird because I was never bummed that I couldn't really reach gaming dads. I guess they're more secluded than I thought, but I attracted amazing to me, amazing humans, that I love dearly. It's all walks of life. Literally all walks of life. They're not. Yeah, you got your gaming dads, but you got your gaming moms. You
Yeah.
got your young bucks in the game who are really good. You got your we have older gentlemen and women as well. So it literally is just, it's like its own little world, just filled of diversity and all these wonderful minds from different places, from different countries, and it just all flows well. And I never, ever, ever in a million freaking years ever thought that we would ever have such a wonderful, wonderful community that we do. Because I've been lucky enough where I think out of all the time we've been doing this, we honestly had one toxic time within the community that was dealt with. It was dealt with and it's been gone, and our community has been absolutely wonderful right from the get-go. So
I was going to ask you that too, because I mean, again, anybody, like, either you're trying to build a community or you're trying to protect it, right? And I guess that was going to be my next question was, how have, it's not just handling that guy, but how do you feel like both you and, I mean, in a way, it's got to be just as much the community kind of setting the tone and setting the standard as well, to kind of get yourself to that place, right? Like, how did
correct.
you go about, I don't know, policing's the right way to say it, but just managing and maintaining, right, that type of culture and that type of place?
So it's funny because I'm a non-commissioned officer in the military. So
Hmm.
I'm a dad. All these things, right, that make you
Yeah.
kind of less susceptible to the bullshit,
Hmm.
essentially. So my mindset is I like to give people the benefit of the doubt right away. But if you abuse that mentality, you're gonna be asked to leave. And I will admit that in this particular instance, I saw hope in this being, and I was trying to guide them to make them better. And this person was progressing. However, there were things that were surfacing that I didn't know about. That basically it was just like, okay, you have no place here. Basically, get out. And that's how we dealt with it. However, in the same token, I have to give a giant shout out to the mods of Dad Nation. They are savages in themselves. They
Yeah.
don't give a shit if you try to come at our community with such hostility. They will not hesitate to fuck you up. I hate to say it that way. I hate to swear, but that's literally the emotion that they have behind is
Yeah.
we have a home. That's our
Yeah.
home. And if you're
Because at
gonna
this point, it's just as much their place as it is yours.
correct,
Like
yes.
it really is. Yeah.
Correct. So they have the same mentality, and we talk offline too. Offline meaning off stream, in the Discord or whatever, and we will go through possible changes, or like, what if this happens, how do we deal with this, and blah blah blah. So
Right.
we're on the same page. And I have full faith in their ability and their full trust that if they feel like something is not uh um for our community, then you're just going to be simply asked to leave. And it's
Asked
just,
to leave. Yeah.
it's literally too easy. We're not about the drama. We're not about the bullshit. We literally want nothing. I know it's cliche, but positive vibes. We're a loving community. We welcome anybody. We will give you a chance if like maybe you're an asshole off the rip, and we kind of have to like, explain a little things like how it works there.
Right.
But after that, like you're being fed to the wolves. You can just get
Absolutely.
out. So
Yeah, how talk to me about, so now we've got the brand and the
yeah.
community's growing and the culture is good. I mean, what was your rate of I mean, what were some of what were some of the big things, I guess, that moved the needle for you? Just in terms of building the following, getting exposure, like what were even just a few just simple practical things that might seem like nothing to you is going to be the world to somebody watching this.
Oh gosh. In that aspect, I honestly have to say that it I owe a lot to Apex, because
Yeah.
if it wasn't for this game, I actually never really thought about it to this moment, but I think honestly, if it wasn't for this game, we still might be. I mean, we're always grinding. Don't get me wrong, but
Right.
we might not be where we are as a community now, as if we didn't have Apex. So thankfully, Apex came, and I decided to stick with it. And for
Mm-hmm.
whatever stupid reason, I chose a character who I was attracted to for all aspects. And the character is not the best character you could possibly use in the game, but I played him well, and I didn't even know this, but I guess there were a lot of other top content creators who knew of me because I played this shitty character and I played him well. And so I would go into their streams, or I would have buddies in the community who'd be like, "Hey, like this guy wants to play with you because he knows you're the Sweat Hound." That's what I was known back then. Because I play Bloodhound. If you
Yep.
don't know, I'm sure we all know.
Yep.
But if you didn't, I play Bloodhound. I guess I'm known as one of the top Bloodhounds. But so they were like, "Dude, you're the Sweat Hound. You're Dadtality. And I'm like, "Wait, you know me?" And honestly, that's what I was like, holy fuck. And I'd say to Mom Tally, like, I'd mute the mic, I'd put the headset down, and I'd run in, yo, they know me.
They really like me. They really like me.
Yeah, yes.
Oh, it's great.
And I shit you not, man.
Yeah.
Shit you not. I would do that so many times. And they were like, dude, you're so good. Like, how can you play such a shitty character? So
Yeah. He became your boy too. And I think too,
yeah.
it's funny you describe it as like I got lucky with Apex. It's like, yeah, I mean, you still made a decision. You could have played, maybe more of the more popular characters or whatever it was, but again, it's like branding and how can you get exposure, right? And it's always about how can you be different, right?
Yes.
How can you be different in a way that still fits you? And I mean, I'm sure playing that guy, especially off the drop before he got like the range buff on the scan, I bet that was just like, that probably took every level of just your gaming knowledge all the way back to, skills gained in GoldenEye to figure out how to make him a viable character on that game, especially right off the drop. I remember him like, ugh,
Yeah.
but you found a way. And actually we've got a guest coming on in a couple of weeks that did a very similar thing. But yeah, I mean, you found a way to carve out a niche, or at least carve out some sort of presence, right? So we're playing Sweat Hound. Okay, so that's a good point, right? How can you be different just in your game? Actually, last week Delta had talked about, he had played PUBG, but he had one of those like level 3 helmets, and he would stream like in the helmet. That was the thing that he did like within his game. So it's not that somebody should leave here and be like, oh, I'm going to go, master Bloodhound or master character. But what you should think about doing is like, this is way more about ways of thinking than it is just specifically what to do, right? It's the way that you should think about strategically. How are you going to build a presence? How are you going to be different, right? Because again, as you said, when way back when you started, there's a ton of streamers and they're not getting any fewer, especially over here, because it is so easy it's still just as easy as when you started. Just hit the live button.
That's it. It's that simple. Kind of elaborating a little bit more to go in with being a Sweat Hound, thankfully, and the networking process that I was able to establish with other top players in the community. It all kind of boils down because like when honestly I would play with partners back then, and it was a fucking honor to play with the partners, because it's like, holy shit, like I'm playing with partners, right?
Yeah.
So on their good graces, you know, they'd be like, hey, you know, go follow Dadtality, like he's super
Right.
cool, like. And the thing is when these people would come here to stop by, and they would, the way that I stream is I'm me. You get 100% me.
Right.
I'm not an actor. I'm not here to win a fucking Oscar or any of that shit. You're gonna get what you see is what you get. We have every day is a good day, but there are some days where I'm kind of like, this fucking game sucks, but you power through it, right? But the whole overall aspect is
Right.
how you carry yourself, and people would come in and they'd be like, dude, you're cool as fuck. Like, you're so good at the game, but you're fucking cool as fuck. Where with Apex, there's a a, a god mentality where, and I mean god mentality, where you get top players and they are assholes. They ego you to death and they're dicks, and like you want to go check out the stream because like, yo, this is one of the top players, and you're there and they're like, fuck this guy, and they're teabagging this guy left and right, and they're talking shit about them and the moms and their dads, you know. Um, that's not how we operate. I am cool as hell. I will shit on you, but I will shake your hand afterwards and be like, dude,
Mm-hmm.
GG's, good luck, man. You know, we'll see you out there again. And it's just that mentality and how I like to carry myself, where it kind
Yeah.
of was like, yeah, this dude sweats, but he's not an asshole. He's actually cool to play with.
Yeah, and it also made you that much more valuable for, I mean, the partners are getting, I mean, they're getting something out of this too, right? And again, that's how business, that's how networking works, right? Like you're providing value, they're providing value back to you. And that kind of mentality of like just kind of keeping your cool, like, just being yourself, staying within yourself, that made you probably just a very, I guess, desirable person to play with, right? Like from their standpoint too,
Yeah.
because like I mean, their games are going better, right? Nobody wants to watch Apex games that don't crack the top 10, not really, right?
Yeah.
They want to
Yeah.
watch like last game moments. They're suspenseful, they're exciting, and if you can help people along, that's going to help, right?
Yeah.
But also, then the way that you are, they can also trust that they can have you there, right? And that you're
That's
not going to say something stupid, or
exactly.
not be a,
Oh,
a poor reflection of their brand, right? Because there'd be nothing worse for somebody, and even and this is even for partners or streamers who have grown like a significant channel. There'd be nothing worse than referring people to somebody else and that person just be a doink,
yeah.
right? And saying something dumb or misrepresenting you. um
Exactly.
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And then now, again, with the advent of, it's gotten a little more competitive, at least over here on console and within Mixer, and you've been able to make a few good runs and stuff like that. And again, that just kind of helps build the presence. You feel like that's helped out at all, like the competitive side of it? Because I mean, this is exactly what we wanted, right? For a long time, the ability to compete.
Oh, holy crap, that's like a whole different animal. I competing in so I've been asked to do higher end tournaments.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is the way that I see that aspect now, would it bring more light to the community? Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, oh, Dadtally's playing with these guys and they're doing this tournament.
Right.
Um, but I elected to not partake in tournaments. I don't even play ranked anymore.
Yeah.
I gave up ranked. I retired from it. But on that tournament aspect, it's not for me. I know what I want to do, where I want our community to go, and I would rather put in 100% of me into that instead of 80% into the community, and a
Right.
20 into like tourney practice or whatever.
Right.
And to be honest, man, I'm gonna be 35 in June. That I'll leave that shit to the young bucks, man. Like, it's their time now.
Right.
Like, I
Right.
tried and it just, you know what I mean? So it
Sure.
doesn't appeal to me. The current state of ranked right now definitely doesn't appeal to me. I probably
Sure.
never will. It's too
Sure.
toxic for me. It's not what I'm about. I would rather enjoy the game than have to hate the goddamn game. And I
Right.
love the game, even the current state. So, like, who wants to come to a channel and check somebody out and they're constantly bitching about this, that? I mean, I'm not saying that trust me, I'm not perfect. I will bitch about the Havoc and I will
Right.
bitch about Gibby and Caustic, but I mean,
Right.
it ends, you know what I mean? The wave
Yeah.
crashes and it's over. Um, So I just like to focus on the community.
Yep.
I want to grow the community. I want us to literally take over the mixer world. So that's kind of the state of mind that I'm in now. So
Sure. Then we fast forward a little bit, right?
yep.
At what point did you kind of hit the 2K follower mark, where now all of a
What
sudden we're
point?
qualified, or where at least
Uh,
we meet the minimum requirements?
so okay, that's a damn good question. I actually still remember who the 2,000th follower was. It was a very known member in our community by Damn That Crispy. It was actually his son. When we hit that 2,000, it was to think about it even now, it's still like holy shit. I can't even believe we ever did it because
Right.
honestly, I
Right.
remember the days of like, who the fuck's ever gonna come into the stream?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and now we're hitting 2,000, and now we're
You
at
remember
two.
when that happened? When that
I
hit?
I honestly, it was. Let's see, where are we in? We're in May. That had to have been at least 2.5, 3 months ago,
Yeah.
possibly, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit less.
Yeah. And then most people, I don't know, I'm sure there's a lot of people a lot of your people in the chat, but for those that don't know, you applied once and you got accepted once
I
right away,
did.
right off
I
the
did.
bat, right? Which that is not the norm, right? That is
No.
that is not the norm. I mean, you don't have like this massive social media presence. You're not
I don't.
you're not a paid professional in esports.
No.
I mean, I think I'll just ask you, how the hell did you do it?
Gosh, I mean,
Did they
I
give you any feedback as to like, hey, this is why at least, or did they just say, boom, you're partnered, congratulations on your pink button?
essentially, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So you have to speculate for me then a little bit. Why do you feel like how do you feel like you did it? What the driving force was?
I think I honestly think it's how our community is as a whole. Because at the end of the day, it's not me, it's we. There is
Right.
no me, it's no I. It's this I'm partner. No,
Yeah.
we are partner. You know what I mean? We are the community. So it was the ambiance that our community exudes. So when you come in, when we have a newcomer come in, I mean, maybe I'm fucking wrong. I don't know, but I feel like when they come in, they're welcomed. They can be
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
They have a good time. They come in. I'm funny. I do stupid shit. I say stupid shit, whatever. But everybody's welcoming, right? There's nobody like, hey, who are you, or like, shit like that. So it's a community we created.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it goes on to how I, being the face of the
Yeah.
community, carry myself, what I want us to represent, what we do represent. And when we were approaching the 2000, it was honestly low key. We wanted to wait till at least 3,000 because we know when you apply right at 2,000, you're gonna get your ass denied.
Right. Right. I mean,
Um,
that's been at least the theme, the overriding consensus, at least, is that's what's happened.
exactly.
Let me ask you more of an analytical question. What were your
Yeah.
numbers sitting at? Do you
Right now,
remember?
currently?
No, not currently.
Oh, then?
At the time, like when you, not
Yes.
then, but when you applied for partner,
Yeah, absolutely.
right? Because, and again, I think it's different for everybody. I mean, listen, the guidelines that they put, they're guidelines for a reason, right? It's not like if you check the boxes, then you get the button, right?
Yeah.
What were the numbers back then for you? Because, I've also heard and have been told that it's like, listen, if you're going to play more of a premium game, you're going to need more than that,
Correct.
30 viewer average or whatever it was. What were your numbers, both from a quantity standpoint and then from a stability standpoint, in terms of how often were you able to kind of replicate those?
Okay, so I remember in a ballpark figure,
Yep.
viewer wise, playing Apex, which is technically quote unquote a premium game, right?
Right.
So and they expect big ass numbers with that. Um, we would be anywhere from I hate labeling this way, but a bad day, like
Sure. A
30.
slow day.
Yeah, slow.
30.
Well, yeah, I like that better. Slow day, like 30.
Yeah.
Anywhere from 40, 45, 50. We've had 80s, we've had 115s.
Sure. Sure.
We were consistently above 30.
So your floor was high always.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think if I had to guess, and again, maybe someday somebody from Mixer actually come on this little rinky-dink
I would
operation that we're doing over here, but
gonna make it
to actually
happen.
speak to this. But
Yeah.
again, if you're looking at like a business and you're evaluating an asset, and I've said this before, so I'll keep this brief, they're either going to look for two things, in my opinion. They're going to look for stability, or they're going to look for growth potential. Right? That's how you evaluate stock, right? You're going to want
Yes.
some stocks that can boom or bust, or you're
Correct.
going to want some stocks like equities that you're going to get your 8% year over year, and we're just going to keep
Yes.
removing, right?
Yes.
I think that you were able to set such a stable floor that was then complemented by the community from a numbers, but then you still showed a little bit of like kind of the boom potential, but just having that floor and never really going below and dipping into the low 20s or the high teens. I mean, because the other side of it is, there could be somebody with a channel who had 3x your followers, right? Who with like 6,000 your followers, and they were getting 30. Well, that doesn't look as good, right? That doesn't look as stable, right? Or stable, or as, I guess desirable from an asset standpoint. Like I'm going to trust the asset that, wow, look at where they are right here. What a good investment this is. He's only at 2,000, but look at his numbers. And I go in there, look at his community, and I see what he's done, and I see the way he carries himself. So the risk for me is Mixer is really low with you, right? Because I know
Correct.
what I'm getting. I know what I'm getting from a floor standpoint,
Correct.
and the upside's going to come, right? Whereas if you're really volatile in viewers, especially in that partnership process, that's tough, right?
Yes.
Especially if you don't have the numbers. Again, this is all pure speculation. This is how I've interpreted what they've said and what's been told to me. But with you, I mean, you're the equity asset, right? You're the one that they know that they're going to get their return. The followers are going to come out, right?
Correct.
Stream over stream, and it's going to be what it's going to be, and we can trust that he's going to continue to produce, because that's really what it's about. Like, again, we should be doing this for the love of it. We should be doing this because you have a pattern. That's the only way that you get to 2,000.
Yeah.
But you have to show that you're a stable asset. You have to show that you're something, a stable brand or a stable asset that they can trust is going to give them a return, because they're making an investment in you, right?
Yes, correct. 100%. That's phenomenal. So, I don't know. I really wish, oh
Yeah,
gosh, I really
it's
wish I knew.
speculative, right?
Yeah,
It's
it
speculative.
really,
I mean, you got it for a reason. Um,
yeah,
the numbers had to play a role into it. The community sure as hell played a role into it.
big time.
Um,
Big time.
I'm a little curious, selfish question. What happens when you get partnered, right? Like, so you get partnered, and maybe some people are curious of this. I am, so I'm going to ask. It's my show.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
You get partnered, right? What is the investment that's made from Mixer into you? I mean, I'm sure there's some hosts. I'm sure there's some other things.
Yeah.
What kind of support is levied to you then once an individual stream makes partner?
So what's incredible, right? This is great because I was using this asset yesterday. So when you make partner, you get a fuck ton of emails, and it's like,
All paperwork, I suppose.
yo,
Yeah,
a lot of it is
a lot
paperwork.
of
Yeah, a
paperwork.
lot of
Yeah,
paperwork. But there are also other links for assets. You got the partnered only Discord, which gives you even more assets to reach out to, and there,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So which is fun. It's phenomenal because if like as a partner, I mean, Mixer's I find very mysterious, right? We don't know how they really operate behind the scenes. So
Right.
we sit here and we're speculating, like for the ones who are on the partner precipice, and they're like, well, shit, like, well, what can I do for this to, things like that, and they want information, but they don't have it because Mixer doesn't come out and say it. You will most likely find it in the Discord.
Right.
Not
Right.
only that is like you can literally, as a partner, you can type out a question and you're gonna have somebody from Mixer who seems to always be there and be like, hey, I got you. I will
Okay.
answer your question now.
Right. Right.
Now a lot of the shit, so I kind of have to be cognizant of this. A lot of the shit that is going on behind the scenes of Mixer is under NDAs.
Yep.
So
Yep. Totally get
um
that.
but the support that they give when you make partner
Yep.
is absolutely, literally, I shit you not. Yes, I am a partner, but I will never bullshit anybody. And Dad Nation
Right.
knows this, that they are amazing. If you have an issue, they will solve it. Like yesterday,
Right.
I had issues with emotes that I was trying to upload in.
Yep.
I literally sent them an email, and I think I got a reply within 10 minutes, and we solved it, and it's fixed and good to go.
Right.
I was trying to send them information for merchandise, and I sent it to them. Hey, we got you. Don't worry. Like, it's shit just happens. It works. So there is that the alleviation of like, hey, they got your back. If there's an issue,
Right.
they're gonna be there and they're gonna
Right.
help you solve it,
Right.
because again, you're a representation of their brand, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people, I know there are I know there are a couple of outspoken partners right now that, really don't have nice things to say about Mixer. But honestly, from my standpoint, we've only been a partner since March 26th. But every
Hmm.
time I needed help, they were
Right.
there. They were
Right.
there to, like, make shit happen. So
Yeah.
I have nothing but wonderful things to say about them. So they'll be there. But so it's funny because they definitely I feel like they look at what can you do for us
100%,
and
as they
what can
should.
we do for you, right? Exactly,
Right.
because this is a business, like, let's
Right.
be honest. So that's a
Mhm.
that's actually another thing that I wanted to, I kind of forgot to say, was like, you have to reach that point in your streaming career. Do I want to be a business, or just want to do this to
100%.
have fun?
100%.
And we as a community, me as a human, Momtality as a human, we are never ever about the money. We don't
Right.
give no, we do. We're very grateful for when we get donations
Right.
and
Of
members and
course.
stuff, but that's not what we're about. We're wanting to help people to build a
Mhm.
nice environment. So, um, but at some point you gotta really sit and think, like, do I want to go the business route? Do I want to reach
Right.
partner?
Right.
So that's when you have to kind of get your mindset in, like, okay,
Yeah.
we're doing this. It's
Yeah,
gonna
and that's
happen.
been the entire premise of this show, right? Because you see so many people that they say that they want partnership, but they're not treating their business at all like they're not treating their channel at all like a business, right?
So here's a tip that I honestly think this is 100%. So Mom, Todd, and I went to PAX East in Boston.
Yep.
We met Sniping for Dom there.
Yep.
Wonderful partner here. And then we ended up linking up with Sploom, who was there for the partner talk or whatever. Like, they had a schedule, they have different partners there. And there's a partner there, Sploom, and we actually picked his brain and we gave him our numbers at that current time. We told him what we wanted to do for the future of our community and our brand. That the goal, yes, was to be partner, because we were full steam ahead and we were working hard to get there. And he gave us some very valuable tips. And I swear the tips that he gave us definitely helped, because the biggest tip that I can say is, when you apply for partnership, yeah, you fill out literally, I think it's shit like 3 or 4 boxes, like your name, all this crap, right? But
Right.
they give you a bigger box at the bottom. It's 500 characters, and they say, tell us about your channel.
Yep.
You have 500 characters, okay? I
Yep.
highly suggest that if you're ever, or anybody is ever going to apply for partnership, you use 500 characters. You
Yep.
put your time into that box
Yep.
and make sure it sounds good. But the thing is we thankfully were never about making it big, being the next Shroud or whatever.
Sure.
So it was never about money, which a lot of people who apply for partnership kind of came off that way.
Yeah.
From what I've been told behind the scenes,
Yeah.
and we're denied for it. You gotta show that you're about representing Mixer, helping Mixer grow, and
Yep.
forming a family and a relationship with them to grow together. So I highly suggest using all 500 characters and making sure it's written well. So
Let's create a fun little metaphor here behind what you just said, because it is so important, right? Imagine you go to, and again, I know the restaurant industry real well, was in it for almost a decade. Imagine you're going into a restaurant, right? Dad, you and mom are going into a restaurant, right? You
yeah.
sit down, and the first thing, out of the server's mind is, I expect 25%. What do I need to do to earn a 25% gratuity on my tab? It doesn't happen for a reason, right?
Yeah.
And nor would the restaurant ever allow it or ever want somebody in their facility, right, that was operating with that mindset. Now, again, we don't need to be naive here and say that money isn't important or that money isn't necessary, right? But when you're presenting yourself and you're presenting your brand, I think, quite honestly, especially, I mean, you being a business owner, me being a business owner, you can't really do it for the money, because the money's just so goddamn inconsistent and it's
Yes.
not reliable.
Correct.
right? And so you better have a much stronger why, because I'm sure that's what Mixer sees. It's like, all right, so you want money. What happens when the money doesn't come? Do you go away? And
Yeah.
now all of our time, blood, sweat, effort that we made that investment into you, well, now what? Now we're, up shit's creek here, right?
Correct. Yep.
So understand, and I think again, it's my job to speculate on the show. I think that's probably where they're coming from, right?
Yeah.
Bro, that was fantastic. You ready for the final four?
I am. Let's get it.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So it's time for the final four. So we end every show with these four questions. These four questions are meant to challenge the streamer in a variety of different ways. Some of these we've probably covered, but we'll just kind of make a point to highlight or illustrate them here at the end. Yeah, I saw a comment here while time flows. Like, yeah, it's almost already
It did.
20 into this. So,
Yeah.
which is all right. I don't care.
This
so
is great.
this is great. So first question, you ready?
Yes.
If you could go back and change one decision you've made in your streaming career, what would it be and why?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's a damn good question. However, I I know what I would change. So when we were going full steam, grinding, this was back let's see, April 2019, around that time. I actually hit a lull. I plateaued, and I didn't stream for almost a damn month.
Really?
Yeah, I got kind of I don't want to call it depression. I mean, maybe it could have been a mix of depression, in the sense of I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I was giving enough back to the community and everybody who deserved 100% me. And I'm not saying it never wasn't 100%. However, I just felt like I wasn't good enough. I felt like they deserved more. They needed more. And it affected me. I mean, I was doing the Apex. I was doing everything I'm doing now I was doing then. But it affected me to the point where I was like, shit, I don't think I made out for this. And I took almost 4 weeks off, and I had a lot of messages from a lot of members of the community saying, where are you? We hope you're okay. And I would definitely talk to them still, but it wasn't as frequent, and they were worried about me as much as I was worried about them. And I kind of like felt like I failed them at that time, until I snapped out of it, and I was like, you know what? I love these people with all of my being, that it's time to man up and get back into it, and be there, and we're gonna go out there and get this. So I would definitely change that. If I could have found that mindset that I ended up finding a little earlier during that time, I mean, that would have been great. So that's definitely what I would have changed.
All right. Question number 2. If you were to restart your stream tomorrow from scratch, what's the first thing that you would do? So you got to wipe it clean. Nothing. We're back to John. What's the first thing you do?
Back to ugly ass Johnny. So we actually already hit on it, but I would go for the brand number one. The brand. Yep. Okay. That is a representation of you and what you want your community, your goal to be. That is you. It's your bat signal, right? Yep. They see that emblem and they're like, holy shit, that is Dadtality. We know you know what I mean? So build your brand, come up with your name, start thinking of your logo, because that's what people are going to see. It's like the title of a good book, right? You want it to look good. You want it to be unique. You don't want somebody to see it and be like, oh, that's Apple Skills 1-2. Cool. Okay. You want that flash, that pizzazz. So definitely from scratch, branding, number one by far.
All right. Number 3, if you had the power to change one thing about the streaming industry, what would that thing be?
Damn, that's a good one too. So
I take a lot of pride in my final 4.
Nah, these are great. Oh my god, this is a freaking brain teaser. So the one thing that I've really never cared for in the streaming community as a whole is the representation of, hey, that's a girl streamer. That's a guy streamer. Why does it have to be broken down like that? Why can't it just be, hey, that's a streamer, or that's a gamer? You know what I mean? Why
Mm-hmm.
has it got to be a girl gamer or boy gamer? We're just gamers. We're just content creators, you know, trying to make it. So why do we have to distinguish it? Because when you do that, then you're going to get biases, right? All that stuff comes into play, and then you know, people aren't going to like this person because, you know, stupid shit. It just all bottles up. I just never really cared for being divided that way.
Yeah.
We're all gamers. We're all trying to be content creators out here, trying to make a name for ourselves, build communities and stuff like that. So that's
Yeah.
one thing that's always really kind of pissed me off. Like, who gives a shit if you're a girl and you stream? Who gives a shit if you're a guy and stream? You're just a
Right.
content creator. You're a streamer. You're a gamer. So,
Fair enough. Number 4, this is my personal favorite.
all right.
What do you think sets apart successful streamers from those who give up, fail, or never get started?
Whoo. Okay. Well, damn. So, I mean, to be successful, period, is you have to embrace the suck, as we say in the army.
Yeah.
Uh, you have to understand that when you decide that you want to become a content creator, that it takes time, it takes sacrifice, it literally takes effort, because you're competing against, this is not streaming from 2010 where it was brand new, it was fresh, there wasn't a lot. This
Right.
is
Right.
now a
Right.
bigger pool with a lot of fucking fish.
Competitive.
So exactly, extremely competitive. So you have to be ready to hunker down and do what you have to do to make a name for yourself and be successful.
Yeah.
And it's believe it or not, it's very intimidating, because when you really sit there and you think about it, and you're competing against a fellow content creators or whatever, it's intimidating, and it's very you can become essentially what's the word I'm looking for, like discouraged. There it is.
Sure.
Discouraged, right?
Sure.
And you then kind of like what I hit. I kind of was like, well,
Yeah.
shit, I'm not good enough. Like I'm not entertaining enough. And you start really questioning yourself, and then you stop.
Yeah.
And then all that shit you were building, the wonderful networks that you were creating, the wonderful humans that you were meeting, and you just stop, finish, and you're gone. And they're kind of left there like, what the fuck? Like, I come to Dadtality stream to get away from my shitty day, but now he's not here. Now what do I do? And then that kind of forces them to go somewhere else. And then maybe
Yeah.
that streamer that they're going to doesn't really appeal to them as much as a Dadtality did. So now
Yeah.
they're kind of fucked up too. So there's a lot of runoff from that. So at the end of the day, it's what sets apart successful streamers from those who give up, a fail, and never started was their ambitions, their discipline to get to where they are, to work hard
Yeah.
and make a name for themselves. Very regimented. So
Completely separate, real quick topic here. Do
yeah.
you feel like you hit kind of like, you recognize when you kind of hit, Malcolm Gladwell calls it that tipping point. Like, you got to push up the hill, and then you get over that hill, and then it really starts to snowball, and you really start to pick up momentum. Did you ever have that or feel that kind of experience in terms of following or community building that you remember?
I do, yeah, and it actually kind of stems back from when I was kind of talking about earlier with being known as the sweathound or whatever.
Yeah.
I was slowly making a name for myself,
Yeah.
but it wasn't until I really started to put in a lot of time into networking and branching out and actually giving honest support to other content creators, because
Yeah.
it's not like hey, I'm gonna jump into this guy's stream and be like, hey dude, what's up, for a week and then never come back
Right.
again. I was going there
Right.
to a lot of content
Yeah.
creators streams, establishing relationships,
Yep.
building networks. I would support them. I still support them to this day, because
Yeah.
that's what I'm all about. And then it's funny because when they literally notice that, and then they give the love back, and
Yeah.
then other content creators see that, and they're giving their love, and they're sharing their communities, and then it's going back and forth.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
then
I
it
think
just
that point that you shared in question 4 about like people just get discouraged, right?
yes,
And that's the point, like you had to in April, where you have to find a way to kind of push through that or adapt if you need to, but keep going. Because the thing that you said that was so on point was you've already built all these networks, you've already built all these places that in relationships that you never know when the other side, like the peak of the mountain, and you're going to get over the other side, right? You'll know it when you get there,
Yep.
but so many people will just kind of stop pushing that
Yeah.
snowball up the hill and never get it over the other side. And then things really start to take off. And that's true amongst all business industries, is there is that grind, right? But then
Yes.
eventually, the term is crossing the chasm, right? Eventually you cross the chasm and then it tips, right? And
Exactly.
then, you see the kind of the groundswell
Yep.
that you've seen. Yeah. Because I mean, if I had to bet, I would be willing to bet that the 500 followers that you gained after making 2000 and after getting partner, I bet the 500 followers that you gained probably came in, I don't know, 10% of the time that it took you to get your first 500. And that
Yeah.
illustrates the point, right? It just
Yeah.
goes when it goes. Yeah.
It's yeah, no, you're right. Absolutely. 100%.